This student essay is based off of Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper, and it has both some really excellent aspects to it, but it also has some problem areas that need some revision. Um, there were some elements of it, though, that I felt were really good for you to model to get an idea of what I'm looking for. But also, the problem areas that need revisions are ones that I think are important to bring your attention to so that you don't do the same thing. All right. So first, I feel they did a great job with their title. I love the title. It captivated me. And then their very first sentence is an effective hook. It subtly introduces what the topic is, and then they provide good background information. And then the last sentence is their thesis, which I feel is very strong. It indicates that they're going to be talking both about the setting of the manor as well as how the wallpaper represents her sanity. I thought this was an excellent thesis. But notice that right off the bat, there's no thesis map. The thesis itself kind of sets up the development of the paper. The student should first start talking about the setting of the manor and then move into talking about the narrator's sanity. Um, and they're going to have to rely on effective transitions in order to do so. So let's take a look at the first topic sentence. Gilman makes a point of not naming the narrator for the explicit reason to tie the narrator's personal description of the bedroom to her own mind and combine them into a single entity. So the student did a good job here. They are sticking to what they said they were going to talk about. They are talking about the actual description of the bedroom. They use effective axis format throughout the paragraph. And if you look at this last sentence, much like the barred windows serve as a viewpoint out into the beautiful nature, she is beauty outside of her, but is barred within herself by her own stresses and manic depressiveness. And then the student goes to the very next topic sentence. Gilman implies the beauty of the narrator by the love and concern that she has around her, as well as the great lengths that her family has gone to make sure she gets better. However, the narrator's actual words, which she journals describing the wallpaper in her bedroom, give a clear picture of how she is slowly losing her grasp on her sanity. This is a nicely written topic sentence assertion because previously they had been talking about the beauty outside, and they begin the topic sentence with the mention of that beauty, so it transitions nicely into their next point. They use a powerful signal word, however, to alert the reader that they're going to start talking about their next point. So this was a really nicely written assertion, and it also stays on track with their development. Notice here we have a block quote. This is the correct format for a block quote. Typically, if a quote runs more than 4 lines in your essay, it needs to be put in block quote format. And that's one of the things that you're going to be working on in your integration of quote assignment that's also due this week. But notice that the first thing the student did was they introduced the quote and they used a colon. And then the entire quote is blocked in. They tabbed it in 1 inch. And notice there's no quotation marks. And the other interesting thing about a block quote in MLA is that the period goes here at the end of the sentence. And notice how at the end of the parenthetical reference, there's no period. And then when they go to do their explanation of the quote, they left justify and line the paper back up again so that we know that this is now the student talking again. So this is a really good example of what a block quote should look like. Okay. So when we get to the end of this paragraph, though, you'll notice we have the conclusion. So one thing to point out is that there was only 2 body paragraphs in this essay. There's one assertion. Here's our second assertion. So typically in academic writing, in order to have a passing grade, I need to see 5 body paragraphs. Intro, conclusion, and 3 bodies. And sometimes even more than 3 body paragraphs. When you get to your research paper, it's definitely going to need more than 3. So one thing that the student could have benefited from was a thesis map that clearly detailed 3 central ideas that they would analyze. All right, so now let's look at the conclusion. The conclusion says, there are many stories in which the central setting plays a huge role in the development in the character's being and their ultimate part overall. but Gilman has successfully made the key part in her story grow from a subtle annoyance to a gateway into a steep fall of insanity. All right, here is our restatement of the thesis. I've highlighted it in yellow for you. This student said, Gilman's abstract and at times disturbed narrator is the center, if not leading character, in this short story. But it is the literal room and the physical wallpaper that are the main protagonists in this descent into insanity. This sounds wonderful. The student has a command of the English language. They have great grammar. They've used awesome vocabulary words. But if we were to copy and paste their restatement of thesis and lay it right next to the thesis that they put in their intro paragraph, we would notice a little bit of an issue. So here is the thesis statement that they said in their introduction. They said, the literal setting of the manor along with the room are a depiction of the narrator's mind, while the yellow wallpaper is a physical representation of her sanity. And then here's the restatement of the thesis. Gilman's abstract and at times disturbed narrator is the center, if not leading character, in this short story. But it is the literal room and the physical wallpaper that are the main protagonists in this descent into insanity. Do you guys notice how these two things don't really go together? They sound like they do, but they're not. The first one is talking all about the setting of the room, and the depiction of the narrator's mind are a representation of her sanity. And this restatement of thesis is arguing about which characters are the main protagonists. It's on the same path, but they're very different. So one thing that this student could do to really improve this paper is to fix the restatement of the thesis so that they match better. So they need to add another body paragraph and fix that restatement of thesis in order to move this more up into the passing grade range. I hope this was helpful for you. Typically, the rest of this essay was well written. The examples were well done. If they had just added a little bit more development with that third body paragraph, this essay would have done fantastic. Okay, hope this helps. Talk to you soon.